The ocean is sending us a warning. It's a silent, beautiful, and utterly terrifying message, written across thousands of miles of the seafloor. It begins here in what looks like a graveyard for giants. Fields of bone-white structures, intricate and ghostly, stretch as far as the eye can see. This is a coral reef, or what's left of it. Once bursting with a kaleidoscope of life and color, it has been transformed into a silent, white necropolis. This isn't an ancient ruin. This haunting spectacle happened almost overnight. What could possibly have the power to drain the very lifeblood from an entire ecosystem, leaving behind only its stark white skeleton? What is the ocean trying to tell us? This phenomenon, known as coral bleaching, is our first great clue. It's one of the most visually stunning and heartbreaking events in the natural world. The color of a coral doesn't come from the animal itself, but from microscopic algae living within its tissues in a delicate partnership. When the water gets too warm, even by just a degree or two for a few weeks, the coral becomes stressed and expels its life-giving tenants. What's left is the transparent tissue of the coral animal, revealing its white calcium carbonate skeleton beneath. The reef isn't dead. Not yet. It is starving, exposed, and vulnerable. A city of millions on the brink of famine, frozen in a silent scream. But the clues don't stop there. Further north, along the rocky coastlines of the Pacific, another, more gruesome mystery is unfolding. Here, a plague of apocalyptic proportions is sweeping through the sea star population. They are quite literally melting, their bodies disintegrating into a white slush, their arms crawling away from their bodies in a desperate, futile attempt to escape their own demise. Divers find disembodied limbs littering the seafloor, spectral remnants of once vibrant creatures. Scientists call it sea star wasting syndrome, but for those who witness it, it looks like something out of a science fiction horror film, a pathogen that dissolves its victims from the inside out. For years, the exact cause was a puzzle. Researchers have now identified a virus, a densivirus, as a likely culprit. But viruses have always been in the ocean. Why is this one suddenly so devastating? The answer once again points to the water itself. Warmer ocean temperatures seem to supercharge the virus, turning a manageable infection into a runaway epidemic. The melting sea stars are another symptom of the same underlying sickness that is bleaching the corals. The ocean's temperature is rising, and this fever is unleashing horrors that were once kept in check by the cold, stable environment of the past. And the weirdness continues to spread. In pockets of the ocean, from the coast of Oregon to the Baltic Sea, fishermen report pulling up gasping, disoriented fish in their nets. They call them zombie fish, not because they are undead, but because they are trapped in a living death. These are the victims of expanding dead zones, vast areas of the ocean where oxygen levels have plummeted, creating an invisible, suffocating trap. The fish in these zones swim erratically, desperately seeking a breath of oxygenated water that isn't there. It is a slow, agonizing process, a glimpse into an ocean that is losing its ability to breathe. Perhaps the most bizarre clue of all is the arrival of unlikely tourists in the cold waters of the north. Fishermen in Alaska are stunned to find giant, tropical mola mola, or sunfish, in their nets. Divers in the chilly English Channel are coming face to face with ornate triggerfish, creatures that belong in the warm waters of the Mediterranean. These animals are thousands of miles from their natural homes. They are not exploring. They are fleeing. A great, silent migration is underway, a chaotic exodus from the increasingly hot and inhospitable waters of the equator. But what exactly are they running from? A bleached, starving reef, a melting, wasting sea star, a suffocating, gasping fish, a lost, refugee sunfish. Viewed alone, each is a strange and disturbing natural event. But when you put them together, a chilling pattern emerges. These are not isolated incidents. They are connected dots in a global mystery, clues that point to a single, powerful force that is fundamentally rewriting the rules of life in our oceans. The entire system, from the smallest microbe to the largest whale, is being pushed to its absolute limit. The delicate balance, forged over millions of years, is beginning to unravel. The warning has been delivered. The evidence is scattered across the planet, from the tropical shallows to the frigid poles. The ocean, the cradle of all life on Earth, is becoming an alien world before our very eyes. We have documented the symptoms of its illness, but we have yet to name the invisible monster responsible for it all. To do that, we must look beyond the visible horrors and delve into the very chemistry of the water itself, where an even more insidious transformation is taking place. The mystery is just beginning. We've seen the haunting evidence, the ghost reefs, the melting stars, the zombie fish. These are the victims, the bodies left at the crime scene. But what is the murder weapon? You can't see it. You can't touch it. Because the killer isn't a creature or a disease in the traditional sense. It's the water itself. The very lifeblood of our planet is being poisoned, turning from a nurturing cradle into a corrosive bath. To understand how, we need to look at the invisible monster we've been feeding for over a century: carbon dioxide. For generations, the ocean has been our silent, steadfast ally. As we filled the atmosphere with CO2 from our cars, power plants, and factories, the ocean absorbed it. It has swallowed more than a quarter of all the carbon dioxide we've ever released, protecting us from the worst effects of climate change. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. This heroic act has come at a terrible cost, triggering a dangerous chemical reaction on a global scale. When carbon dioxide dissolves in seawater, it forms carbonic acid. The name alone should be a warning. This isn't an acid that will burn your hand. Not yet. It's a slow, insidious change. The carbonic acid releases hydrogen ions, which makes the ocean more acidic. But these ions are also thieves. They have a ravenous appetite for carbonate ions, the fundamental building blocks that countless marine animals use to construct their shells and skeletons. Imagine trying to build a house while a thief continuously steals your bricks. This is the reality for millions of species. They are being forced to expend more and more energy just to exist, to fight a chemical war against their own home. Scientists have a name for this crisis: ocean acidification. But a more fitting name might be the osteoporosis of the sea. It's a disease that weakens the very bones of the ocean, making them brittle and fragile. And its first victims are the smallest and most delicate among them. Meet the pteropod, a tiny, free-swimming snail often called a sea butterfly. With graceful, wing-like feet, it flutters through the water column, a beautiful and vital part of the marine ecosystem. For countless fish, birds, and even great whales, these tiny snails are a crucial source of food. But the pteropod's shell is made of aragonite, a form of calcium carbonate that is exquisitely sensitive to acidification. In water that is too acidic, their paper-thin shells begin to dissolve. Under a microscope, you can see the damage. The once smooth, elegant shell becomes pitted and rough, as if it's been scoured with sandpaper. As the acidity rises, the shell becomes transparent, ghostly, until it disappears entirely. The sea butterfly is left exposed, a creature of exquisite design erased by an invisible chemical tide. It is a slow, agonizing death, a dissolution into nothingness. This isn't a distant future threat. Pteropods in the Southern Ocean and the North Pacific are already showing signs of this dissolution right now, and they are the canaries in the coal mine. What is happening to them will happen to others. The magnificent chambered nautilus, the humble clam, the oyster on your plate, the barnacles on the shore. All of them are struggling to build their homes in an increasingly corrosive world. Even the corals, already bleached and starving from the heat, now face a second assault. How can they rebuild their great cities when the very bricks they need are being stolen from them? The horror of ocean acidification lies in its scale. It attacks the very foundation of the entire marine food web. The microscopic coccolithophores, beautiful single-celled algae that create their own tiny calcium plates, are also at risk. These organisms are not just food. They are engines of the global climate, helping to regulate the chemistry of the planet. If this foundation of shelled plankton crumbles, the entire skyscraper of marine life, from krill to tuna to dolphins, could collapse with it. It's an extinction event playing out in slow motion, one dissolved shell at a time. This is the first invisible monster, the acid ghost we have unleashed. It is a patient killer, one that will haunt the oceans for centuries to come, fundamentally changing what can and cannot survive. But as terrifying as this slow chemical decay is, it is no longer the most immediate threat. Something else is spreading through the water, a more brutal and fast-acting horror. It doesn't dissolve its victims, it suffocates them. A new monster is rising from the depths, and it is stealing the very breath of the ocean. We have confronted the acid ghost, the slow, chemical decay dissolving the ocean's skeletons. But another monster is stirring, one far more immediate and brutal. It doesn't melt its victims, it chokes them. Imagine holding your breath. First comes the pressure, then the panic, then the desperate, burning need for air. Now imagine an entire ocean holding its breath, not for minutes, but for decades. A silent, invisible suffocation is spreading through the water, stealing the very life from it. This is not a slow sickness like acidification. This is a planetary asphyxiation. The science behind it is deceptively simple, something you've witnessed every time you've opened a warm can of soda. Warm liquids can't hold as much dissolved gas as cold liquids. As our planet warms, the oceans warm with it, and just like that soda going flat, the water loses its ability to hold on to dissolved oxygen. For the countless creatures that breathe this water, from the smallest shrimp to the largest sharks, it's like the air is getting thinner with every passing year. They are living on a mountain that is growing taller and taller, and they are running out of breath. This oxygen loss isn't uniform. It creates vast underwater deserts known as oxygen minimum zones, or more simply, dead zones. These aren't just areas with less life. They are biological black holes. When an unsuspecting fish swims into one, it enters a world where the water provides no relief. Its gills pump uselessly, its movements become frantic, then sluggish. It is a slow, agonizing drowning in the open ocean. These are the zones that create the zombie fish we saw earlier, creatures trapped in an invisible prison, a layer of water that means certain death. And these prisons are growing. All over the world, from the Gulf of Mexico to the Baltic Sea, these dead zones are expanding, spreading like a cancer through the marine world. They are fed not only by heat, but also by the cocktail of fertilizers and pollution that runs off our lands, triggering massive algae blooms that die, sink, and rot, consuming even more oxygen in the process. We are creating desolate, silent expanses of water larger than entire countries, and they are beginning to merge into a single, global, suffocating entity. But in this realm of death, something stirs. Nature abhors a vacuum, and as familiar, complex life suffocates and flees, the stage is set for a different kind of kingdom to rise. This isn't evolution, it's devolution. It's a regression to a more ancient, more primitive Earth. Before fish, before corals, before the complex web of life we know, the oceans were a toxic, low-oxygen soup. And the life forms that thrived in that primordial world are waiting patiently in the shadows for their time to come again. Their time is now. First come the microbes. Imagine descending into a dead zone and finding the seafloor gone. In its place, a vast, pulsating carpet of slime stretches for miles in every direction. These are colossal mats of ancient bacteria and archaea, organisms that don't just tolerate this toxic, oxygen-free environment, they celebrate it. Some feed on sulfur, others on nitrogen, releasing methane and hydrogen sulfide, the smell of rotten eggs, poisoning the water even further. They are turning the ocean floor into a shimmering, foul-smelling blanket of primordial ooze, reclaiming the planet for the simplest, hardiest forms of life. And they are not alone. Rising from the suffocating deeps is a silent, gelatinous armada. Jellyfish. These creatures are perfectly designed for this new world. They have low metabolic rates, can tolerate stunningly low oxygen levels, and thrive on the simplified food webs that remain. While fish suffocate, colossal blooms of jellyfish are taking over, turning huge swaths of the ocean into a stinging, ghostly soup. We are witnessing the dawn of a new era, the gelatinocene, a planet ruled not by fins and teeth, but by mindless, drifting bells of gelatin. The suffocating deeps are giving birth to a new, yet ancient, ecosystem, a world of slime and jelly, a throwback to a time 500 million years ago. This is the future we are creating. Not just an empty ocean, but an alien one, filled with the ghosts of Earth's deep past. But not all creatures will stand by and suffocate or be consumed by this rising tide of slime. Those with the power to move are already on their way, fleeing the heat and the dead zones in a desperate bid for survival. This is no orderly retreat. It is a chaotic, planetary scramble, a great migration that will throw the world's ecosystems into utter pandemonium. We've witnessed the rise of a suffocating, primordial world of slime and jelly. For many creatures, this is the end of the line, a slow death in an oxygen-starved prison. But for others, the strong, the fast, the desperate, there is another option. Run. What we are now seeing is the single largest migration in the history of the planet. It's not a graceful, seasonal journey. It is a frantic, disorganized, and violent stampede away from the equator, a great chaos migration on a scale never before seen. The ocean's inhabitants are becoming climate refugees, and they are bringing war with them. As the planet's thermostat rises, the bands of tolerable water temperatures are being squeezed towards the poles. For a creature evolved to live in a specific temperature range, this is a matter of life and death. The only choice is to follow the cooling water, to swim north or south into territories unknown. This isn't just a few species. It's a mass exodus of entire ecosystems. Phytoplankton, krill, fish, turtles, sharks, trillions of organisms are on the move, abandoning their ancestral homes. The ancient, invisible boundaries that have separated the world's oceans for millennia are dissolving into warm, open highways. But what happens when these migrants arrive? They are not entering an empty paradise. They are invading established kingdoms, territories that are already occupied by predators and prey that have never seen them before. This is where the chaos truly begins. The delicate predator-prey relationships, honed over millions of years, are thrown out the window. It is a planetary-scale cage match, where strangers from different ends of the Earth are forced into the same ring. And from this chaos, new monsters are born. Consider the Humboldt squid. Known to fishermen as Diablos Rojos or Red Devils, they are formidable pack hunters of the eastern Pacific, growing up to 2 meters long, armed with sucker-line tentacles and a razor-sharp beak. They are known for their intelligence and explosive aggression. Now, as their warm, oxygen-poor waters expand, they are pushing north into the cooler hunting grounds of another apex predator, the orca. What happens when a pack of these hyper-aggressive, intelligent cephalopods clashes with a pod of highly coordinated, powerful marine mammals? We are about to find out. It's a battle of titans that has never happened before in Earth's history. The chaos also breeds monsters in a more literal sense. As distinct species are forced into overlapping territories, they may also be forced into the same breeding grounds. Take sharks, for example. What happens when the aggressive bull shark, which can tolerate freshwater, is pushed into the same coastal estuaries as the larger, more powerful tiger shark? Under immense environmental pressure, the lines between species can blur. The result could be a hybrid, a genetic lottery that might produce a new, even more formidable predator, a shark that combines the aggression and territoriality of one species with the size and bite force of another. We are not just mixing ecosystems, we are potentially creating chimeras. This ecological pandemonium ripples through every level of the food web. Schools of tropical fish arrive in temperate kelp forests, devouring plants that local herbivores have never had to defend against. They bring with them new parasites and diseases that native species have no immunity to. Conversely, migrating prey species like cod or herring may find themselves face to face with a predator they have no instinct to fear, leading to wholesale slaughter. The fundamental rules of survival are being rewritten in real time, and the ink is blood. What we are witnessing is the complete breakdown of marine biogeography. The ecological map of our planet is being erased and redrawn. This isn't a gradual shift. It's a violent collision of worlds, a biological free-for-all where the only certainty is uncertainty. The ocean is no longer a collection of distinct ecosystems, each with its own rhythm and balance. It is becoming one single, chaotic, and unpredictable battlefield, stretching from pole to pole. But all this chaos is happening in the sunlit and twilight zones of the ocean. While this horizontal war rages across the planet's surface, the heat and carbon are seeping ever deeper, invading the largest and most mysterious realm on Earth, the abyss. Down in the eternal darkness, below the chaos of the migration, a far stranger transformation is beginning. Here, life does not have the option to flee. It must adapt or die. And in the crushing pressure and rising heat of the deep, something entirely new is beginning to evolve. The real monsters are not the ones fighting on the surface. They are the ones being forged in the abyssal hothouse below. While a chaotic war of migration rages across the ocean's surface, a different kind of invasion is taking place below. It is a slow, silent, vertical descent of heat and carbon, sinking past the twilight zone and into the largest realm on our planet, the abyss. Down here in the eternal midnight, under pressure that would crush a submarine like a tin can, there is no escape. Life has nowhere to run. The only option is to endure, to adapt, to become something new. The abyss, once the most stable environment on Earth, is being transformed into a high-pressure, high-temperature crucible. And what is being forged in this darkness is beyond our imagination. The very foundations of this world are changing. The first change is the food supply. For eons, life in the deep has depended on marine snow, a gentle, constant rain of organic detritus from the sunlit world above. But now the menu is changing. The rain is becoming a sludge, thick with the pulpy remains of jellyfish blooms and microbial mats. The second, more profound change is the awakening of a sleeping giant. Vast reserves of methane, frozen into a solid, ice-like form called clathrates, are locked in the seafloor sediments. As the deep waters warm, these reserves are beginning to thaw and destabilize, releasing colossal amounts of energy-rich gas into the abyss. This unprecedented methane feast will not go uneaten. Evolution abhors a wasted opportunity. In this new abyssal hothouse, we can imagine the rise of entirely new life forms, creatures that are not just animals, but ecosystems unto themselves. Picture the methane WYRMS. Not creatures of flesh and bone as we know them, but colossal, worm-like colonies of symbiotic organisms, stretching for hundreds of meters. Eyeless and ancient, they would burrow through the muddy seafloor, consuming the melting methane ice. They would be the first generation of life to feed directly on the fossil fuel sins of the world above. These titanic WYRMS would be the architects of a new deep-sea geology, their labyrinthine tunnels aerating the sediment and releasing other chemicals, further terraforming their environment. Their bodies would become a habitat, hosting entire communities of smaller organisms that feed on their waste products. They would represent a new foundation for life, a food web built not on the sun, but on the potent energy of greenhouse gases. They are a dark reflection of our own industrial society, a biological engine consuming hydrocarbons, living deep beneath us in the crushing dark. The heat and chemicals bubbling up from the seafloor would fuel another bizarre transformation. The familiar, sparse bioluminescence of the deep, used for hunting and mating, would be replaced by something far stranger. Imagine descending onto an abyssal plain to find that it is no longer dark. You are floating over the glimmer fields, vast, undulating carpets of newly evolved thermophilic bacteria, stretching for miles. Thriving on the geothermal heat and chemical vents, they would glow with a steady, cold, and eerie light, turning the abyssal floor into a ghostly, illuminated landscape. This is not the twinkling of fireflies. It's the constant, spectral glow of an alien world. In an environment that has been defined by darkness for 300 million years, the sudden arrival of pervasive, ambient light is a revolutionary event. It forces an evolutionary arms race on a scale not seen since the Cambrian explosion. The old rules of stealth are obsolete. Creatures with giant, sensitive eyes are now blinded by the glare. The entire sensory landscape of the deep is being rewritten, and any life that wishes to survive here must evolve new ways to hunt, hide, and communicate in this new world of perpetual, eerie twilight. Every new Eden, even a hellish one, needs its serpent. An ecosystem with vast new energy sources, From the colossal methane WYRMS to the smaller creatures of the glimmer fields, requires a new apex predator to sit atop its food web. This creature would be a true leviathan, forged in the unique pressures of the abyssal hothouse. It would be gigantic, its body protected by a thick bioceramic shell to withstand the crushing depths and corrosive chemistry. Perhaps it wouldn't need eyes, but instead would hunt using a sophisticated form of electroreception, sensing the faint nerve impulses of the WRMS buried in the mud beneath it. This new abyssal hunter would be the master of a kingdom we created but can never know. We have spent decades looking to the stars for alien life, all while creating the conditions for a completely alien biosphere to erupt in the deepest, most inaccessible part of our own planet. The abyss is no longer a stable repository of ancient life. It has become a hyper-evolutionary engine, a cradle for a future we cannot predict. The things being born in this darkness are the true children of the Anthropocene. And while the world above fights its chaotic wars, they are growing, adapting, and waiting. Our journey has taken us from the sun-drenched shallows to the crushing dark, following a trail of unsettling clues. We began in the silent, bone-white cemeteries of once vibrant coral reefs. We descended into a chemical nightmare where the water itself dissolves the shells of the living. We witnessed the rise of vast, suffocating dead zones that give birth to primordial slime and gelatinous fleets. We watched as the surface erupted into a chaotic, planetary war, a great migration of refugees and invaders. And finally, we plunged into the abyss, imagining the new, monstrous forms of life being forged in a hothouse of our own making. Throughout this dark odyssey, we have searched for the cause, the single unifying force behind all this horror and transformation. We have hunted for a culprit, a monster responsible for this global catastrophe. Now, at the end of our journey, we find the answer, and it has been with us the entire time. The ultimate mystery is solved not by looking deeper into the ocean, but by looking in the mirror. There is no external villain. The force with the power to warm the planet, poison the chemistry of the seas, and rewrite evolution itself is us. This is the most terrifying truth of all. We are the architects of this new world. Every flight, every traffic jam, every watt of electricity has been a brick in the foundation of this alien future. We have been so focused on how climate change will affect our world, our cities, our farms, our weather, that we failed to see the much larger picture. We weren't just damaging the ocean. We were providing the raw materials and the evolutionary pressure for it to become something else entirely. We have, quite literally, created a monster. And here is the hardest part to accept. The machine is already running. The heat we have pumped into the seas will remain for centuries. The carbon dioxide will continue to acidify the water for millennia. We have initiated a chain reaction, a set of feedback loops that are now taking on a life of their own. The melting methane, the expanding dead zones, the chaotic migrations, these are no longer just consequences. They are causes, driving further changes in a cycle we can no longer fully control. We have given the Earth a shove, and it is now tumbling down a new evolutionary path. This is not a story that ends with a simple call to action, a hopeful message that we can fix everything if we just try hard enough. The world we knew, the ocean of the past 10,000 years, is already gone. A new world is being born from its corpse, and we have no idea what it will ultimately look like. The change is now inevitable. Our choice is no longer about preventing this transformation, but about the severity of it. How far will we let it go? How alien will we allow our own planet to become? Perhaps in a million years, future paleontologists, if there are any, will find a strange layer in the rock. They will call it the Anthropocene layer, and in it, they will find the fossilized remains of our cities alongside the bizarre, calcified shells of the abyssal leviathans we created. They will see evidence of a planet that was, for a brief geological moment, ruled by an intelligent ape that became so powerful it inadvertently triggered a new chapter in the story of life. Our true legacy might not be our art, our literature, or our technology, but the creatures that evolved to thrive in the world we leave behind. As we stand here today, the ocean surface can look as calm and as beautiful as it ever has. A perfect, tranquil blue stretching to the horizon. It is a comforting, deceptive mask. It hides the chemical war in its depths. It hides the suffocating prisons and the chaotic battles. And somewhere, down in the eternal darkness, it hides the new life that is stirring, adapting, and growing in the unnatural warmth. We set out to find monsters in the deep, only to discover we created them. And now they are rising,